lunchtime. And at the end of your little session, it can be as short as 3 minutes or as long as 40. It'll print out what your brain activity did and give you a score. And one of my favorite stories was I was out with San Francisco and a middle infielder saw me do it and he said, I want to try it out. And I was like, sure, here, try it out. So he was 10% calm out of 100%. And he said, how'd I do? I said, you did okay. You're 10% calm. He said, that didn't sound very good. He goes, how good were you the first time you did it? I said, I was 28% calm. Now he gets all feisty and competitive. And he left. He stole it. He just left this complex with my phone that it was synced to and the device. He came back later that afternoon and he literally slammed it down in front of me and said, beat that. He was 78% calm. So with the feedback, he started to learn what he needed to do to get his mind to quiet down. So what's awesome about this, well, that's great that you can do that. And I've always thought it was really interesting because my kids, when they were little and playing baseball, they would compete against each other to see who got the best score. And they weren't doing it that much anymore. I was talking about it one time. They said, yeah, we're just so good at it now. And after a ball game one time, my son said, that first pitch that was clearly a ball and the umpire called a strike, he goes, I just stepped out of the box and did my little thing for a minute and was able to calm myself down and approach the next pitch with a much better, I thought that was great to hear a 12-year-old saying that he was
That's
controlling
awesome.
his mind in between pitches and not getting too frustrated with this poor volunteer rough that doesn't need his lip. But anyway, so the great thing about that is you don't wear this when you go to bed at night. You just go to bed and now you've determined exactly what you need to do to settle your mind. And one of two things will happen. Number one is you fall asleep. Number two is you don't. But let's say you don't tonight. If you can sit there in your bed awake, not sleeping unfortunately, but you can assume that low mental state, I can promise you, even if you don't sleep a wink, you're going to feel amazing the next day. And in fact, they've done research on Tibetan monks who will literally sit on the side of a mountain in their robes and chant for hours and hours and hours. And they're not asleep because they're chanting. You can't chant in your sleep, but their brains are indistinguishable from those of who are sleeping. So I love the idea of control, in athletics. What can you control? What can you not? And I love the idea that you can't control necessarily exactly when you fall asleep, but you can control your response to that and the way you're awake in your bed at night. And if everybody on a baseball team, and you play 160 whatever games a season, took 15 minutes out of their day and either rested or napped. We don't like to talk about napping with athletes or kids because it puts an expectation on the process. Resting, we all can do right now. If I said over the next 5 minutes, everybody close your eyes, put your feet up and rest for a minute. There, I'm doing it right now in front of you. I can do that whenever I want to. I can't sleep on command. But when you give the athlete control, hey, this is something you can control. This is something you can actually get better and better at over time. Now you're speaking their language. And one of the teams I work with, there were several players who had these devices. They would come in every morning and write their score on a dry erase board to see who could get the highest score. So now you're competing to see who can be the best at being relaxed. It's like the car game you played with your angry dad on the car trip to Disneyland. God damn it, kids, shut up. Whoever can be the quiet, I'm going to buy them candy and a soda pop at the next rest stop. So you're back there and you're like, oh God, and then finally somebody says, something and everything. But, it's like the quiet game, but it's a much more elevated. So to me, if you're somebody who struggles with insomnia, forget the pills. You're making the problem worse because you're not going to the core of what you're actually trying to treat. And once you have control of it, it just takes fear out of the whole process. You're a pitcher who's getting ready to pitch tomorrow in the biggest game of your life. You're in control. Not to mention the fact that if you've slept 28 great days, what's one day? It's not that big a deal. It's, and what's cool is if you look at research about sleep, the way you believe you slept in a night will affect your performance more than the way you actually did, which is fascinating to me. So confidence, belief, swagger when it comes to sleep is kind of a real thing. Like somebody who believes I'm a great sleeper, their performance will reflect that, even if the Whoop band doesn't show it every time. The person who's a little bit more nervous, more type A, oh, I didn't get a good sleep last night and I'm really nervous that, things are not going to be great. That can be a rabbit hole that can really be a bad place to be.
Interesting. Yeah, when you brought up, how you could train your mind and everything, that was always something that I loved when I played, doing research, talking to people like you on neuroplasticity, how you can train your mind like you train your body. I love talking to athletes now about, yeah, you lift, you work out to get bigger muscles, to get stronger, to get faster. You do the same thing with your mind, whether it's, I like concentration grids where you can really just lock in on something and do the numbers in order for 5 minutes, do that 4 or 5 times a week. Train how to have present moment focus and concentration, and then you maybe put on some music, put the TV on to simulate a game environment. But yeah, man, it's so interesting, the control and how you can train it. I don't think a lot of people know that about the mind. They know that about their body because a lot of people talk about it, but it's so true about the mind, and it's really fascinating.
Well,
When
that's
you
what
look
this
into
was
it.
designed for. In fact, I've got this fantastic picture of my son who swims at a swim meet. He would actually walk out about 30 minutes before he'd swim, and the crowd and all the parents are yelling at their kids who can't hear a word they're saying, and he would put it on and he would try to get a really low score, in those 30 minutes before he would go out, because he felt like it was allowing me to tune everything out and just focus on, the things that I needed to focus on: the start, technique, controlling the things I needed to control, and not be concerned about everything around me. Just he felt like it kind of put him in a better zone. So, we use it for sleep purposes, but that wasn't really what it was ever designed for.
You know what I love to do, and
It's great. Yeah. And you would know too, one of my fascinating things is, a pitcher's injured his arm who will mentally pitch games as part of his recovery. And when he's suddenly able to start throwing a ball again, he's much further along in his recovery than the guy who didn't do that, which is just tremendous. It's all,
Mhm.
the brain's the best.
Yeah, man,
I always give doctors who, lung doctors and spleen doctors a hard time, like Time Magazine, Mysteries of the Spleen. Like, that's never going to happen. It's all the brain, man. Brain's the
yeah.
best.
When the first time I worked with you in Cleveland, we were in spring training in Arizona, but you gave me these glasses, the Smith glasses that had the Muse built
Yeah.
into them. And I remember before games, and it helped me so much, the playoffs, the World Series, I would go in the sleep room in Cleveland, pitch black, good environment, put those on and do my meditation. And then I would get into my visualization of whatever pitcher we're facing, whatever. But
Yeah,
those,
they're amazing. Like this is, so basically they're just like a pair of sunglasses, and
yeah,
that Muse is built into them, and all you have to do to activate is tap the side, and as long as you're wearing them,
yeah.
they just look like sunglasses, but they do the same thing. So I'd forgotten you got the low down focus. That's what they were
Yes,
called.
yes.
Yeah, the military was really into those.
I don't know if they still sell those. I was
I don't
looking the
think
other
they do
day.
either.
Yeah, man, but I love those. Those were great. But you don't even need glasses before a game. Just go somewhere quiet. Maybe get something you can put over your eyes so it's dark.
Absolutely.
Just
Well,
wear
that's
some
what's funny
Oakleys
is,
on, something like that, and do
uh-huh.
relax, do your
I
visualization.
was
Make
I
sure
was
that.
working with a WNBA player, and she said, "Can I try the Muse thing?" So we put it on her, and she was awesome, like 80%. I
Wow.
said, "Wow!" I said, "This is so good." I said, "What was your secret? How'd you do it?" She said, "I just imagined I was in a dark auditorium, and somebody that I couldn't see kept feeding me a basketball. I'd shoot it; it goes through the hoop. Feed, shoot, feed, shoot." And I just did that over and over again. I said, "That's so cool." I said, "What made you think to do that?" She goes, "I don't know. That's what I do to go to sleep every night." So she had come to that conclusion independently, and then the little Muse just kind of verified that her sort of meditation, her plan when she couldn't fall asleep at night was, I'm just going to shoot free throws, which probably made her a better free thrower, because there is research that says visualization of a process, a free
Mhm.
throw, a perfect swing, if you rehearse it in your mind, does translate to what you do physically.
Yep.
So what a great plan that if she falls asleep quickly, awesome. If she doesn't, she's just getting extra free throws in, putting her ahead of her competition. So I always
Mm-hmm.
thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I remember when I was at UVA, we would do visualization. We would usually do it either in the cage or on the field. Coach Mack would run us through some things. We'd hold our bat or close our eyes and he'd kind of say what pitch is coming. And that's where I first started visualization. Then,
Oh,
just take it to
it's
another
so
level.
important.
But yeah, it makes
And you can
such a
do it in the
difference.
back of an Uber. You know what I mean? Like,
You can do it
sure,
anywhere.
you can
Yeah.
look at TikTok, that's fun, or you could sit there and, I always told my pitchers, I want 30 perfect pitches before you fall asleep at night. So get into bed, say your prayers, kiss your partner goodnight, set your alarm. Then I want you to visualize 30 perfect pitches. I had this one player came up to me the next spring training and said, man, doctor, I'm trying to do that, but I can only throw about 3 or 4 and then I fall asleep. I'm like, that's okay. Congratulations. Good for
Uh-huh.
you.
Yeah. Hey, to get back on the insomnia, kind of along those lines, is something that happens to me a lot. I know happens to a lot of people is they're sleeping good, they fall asleep, but then they get up to go to the bathroom. They can't fall back asleep. So lately what I do, I put on a podcast, and I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's starting a bad habit. But for whatever reason, it gets the thoughts out of my mind of, what I have to do the next day for work or whatever. Does that hurt your sleep cycles by having a podcast on a sleep timer, or having a TV on a sleep timer?
I
Like, what
don't
would you say about that?
I don't think so. It's certainly a podcast is certainly much better than anything involving a screen or light. So, once every spring training, somebody says, I watch endless episodes of Friends on a loop at night. It just plays all night long. Is that okay? And it's really not. I love Ross and Rachel, but having that light and that dialogue going all night long, your brain pays attention to it even though you're asleep. So you can't learn Spanish in your sleep, but they've done studies where they put people in an MRI who are asleep, and over a speaker they'll play like either a word that's a color or a verb: green, run; blue, swim. And you can see on the PET scanner they're actually organizing the words in their brain. So you're paying attention to some extent. So a podcast is great. It's still dark, it's quiet, it's relaxing, it's getting your mind off of that performance anxiety. And the key with what you said was there's a timer. So after 20 minutes, it clicks off and you're back to being in silence again. So, I always think about those things: noise machines, podcasts, think of them as supplements. I love the word supplement, meaning that how would you feel, Brandon, if you took a trip and you left your little podcast device at home, or there was no reception where you were? The correct response is, it's no big deal. I'm fine without it. If it's, oh God, we've got to turn this car around because I left my podcast thing at home and I can't sleep without it, that's the dangerous territory. So we always want good exercise, good nutrition, good mental health, good sleep. And then if you want to get something like this or some Swan Wicks to supplement what's already good and strong and take it to a little bit of a higher level, great. Supplement, not depend. That to me is and even with children,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have this blanket to sleep and you'll freak out if you don't have it, or I can sleep without it, but it's kind of nice to have the blanket. It's comforting, it smells good, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I think a podcast is great. Have a
Okay.
plan.
Yeah.
Tonight, when you can't fall asleep, what are you going to do? And I think reading, meditating, podcasts are all really good activities. They're fine.
Cool, cool. I know a lot of people have questions. I just want to get to a couple more, and then I'll get to those. So there's high school, college kids tuning in. What would you say to them? They have, they're practicing or going to school all day, then they practice and, have to do stuff at home, dinner, more homework on a screen. So you're getting the blue light. So we already covered blue light emitting glasses would be good for that. Anything else you say was good for a college? You have so much on their plate to get a really good night's sleep, enough quantity. What would you recommend? Like a good routine, or what would you think?
Yeah, I usually don't pick up the phone when a college calls, because colleges have a keen way of presenting situations that are absolutely impossible. And I told you earlier, my son now swims for Navy, and I'm never going to step foot and talk to any of those athletes up there because I'm kidding. But so I think the college athlete needs to be exceptionally organized.
Mm.
And I don't think that it really works if you're not. I mean, the pro athlete, when they finish up at 3 o'clock, man, it's just go home, play some Call of Duty. And I mean, there's not a lot that they need to do until they start having kids sometimes. So it becomes a very easier situation to ensure good sleep. I just need to help them modify some behavior sometime. But for the college student who really wants to do what's right and get the right amount of sleep, it can be difficult. So I think that organization is extremely important, and staying on top of your work and not being a procrastinator where, just because you can hammer it out. One of the things I found that my older son was always good at was his swim started at 5 o'clock in the morning. So he was always in bed no later than 10. I'd be like, don't you have like 2 tests tomorrow? He's like, yeah, I'm studying for. I feel pretty good about it, but I'm going to bed. Versus my daughter, who's the 4th year at UVA, man, she'll stay up all night. I mean, I think sometimes just to do it, like chemistry. I've got 3 more things I got to memorize, and like you should really just go to bed. I think you're probably going to do better if you do. So, organization's important. I think a schedule's important. There's also research that says, look, sleep debt's a huge thing. This idea that can you make up sleep debt? The answer is probably no, meaning that the sleep that I lost in medical school and running around the hospital sticking needles in people's necks and being on call, I will never get that back, and will probably die, I don't know, 3 years earlier because of it. Now, can you make up a sleep debt in the short term? And I think the answer in research would say yes. So if you're a high school student, I see a couple on here, or a college student, maybe the better way to think about your sleep is not you need 7, 8, 9 hours a night, but maybe you need 49 hours, 56 hours a week. So, okay, you've got big final exam, 2 papers due, and an early practice that you really can't miss, and a team lift and this and that. Okay, well, you're in bed at 12:30, 1 o'clock, and you had to turn around and get up at 6 to get up for that team lift. So you got 5 hours tonight. Can a 19, 20, 21-year-old make it with 5 hours at night? Sure, they can. That's the great thing about being 21. You can abuse yourself and look like a rose the next day. But so what you need to do is, okay, I've borrowed from the sleep bank, 2 hours or 3 hours. When are you paying that back over the next 6 days? Because if you go longer than 6 days, Dr. Winter comes to your dorm room, breaks your knees. That's the kind of loan shark I am. I'll give you 7 days to pay back that sleep debt that I'm coming after you with a club, right? So that's the way you need to think about it. And I think that really opens up things for a lot of young athletes that feel like, hey, I'm pretty organized, but sometimes that's the way I always found like my kids were. Like, what do you got going on tonight? Nothing. Okay, what do you got going on Tuesday night? Nothing. Okay, Wednesday night, what do you got going on tonight? Nothing. Thursday night, I got 3 tests and 2 papers due tomorrow. And I would always say, well, you should have been more on top of this during the week. And they'll tell you, no, we just got to sign these today. And I didn't believe them for years. And I started talking to their friends like, oh yeah, that's the way teachers are here. They'll just hammer you on Wednesday night. When I was growing up in Southwest Virginia, all of our teachers were buddies. They'd be like, I know Mr. Johnson's giving you a history test tonight, so I'm going to postpone the math test by 2 days. Like I thought that was what everybody did. Not around here, man. Times have changed. They'll get you. So to me, you have a bad night. Let's just figure out a time where you could take a nap. You could go to bed a little early, or you got a day off on Sunday. Let's make sure we utilize that time and maybe sacrifice going out Saturday night. Just not because I don't think you should, but because I think that you might need to use Saturday night to make up for that difficult Tuesday and Wednesday you just had because of your academics and your sport.
Gotcha. So organizing, scheduling.
So I call it the bucket, the sleep bucket. You've got 49 hours you got to fill the bucket with this week. Don't worry about tonight, but if tonight is bad, so maybe in that way you look down the line and say, I know Thursday night's going to be brutal, so I'm going to try to get a little extra sleep on Monday and Tuesday night. Instead of hanging out with my buddies, I'm going to turn in a little early.
Gotcha.
So I think that's a real key.
That's great stuff. So just for all the athletes listening, scheduling, organizing, sleep debt, you don't have a good night's sleep, just make up for it soon. And then just know deep down, like we talked about at the beginning, that you're sacrificing when you're not getting that deep sleep and you're not sleeping a lot, you're sacrificing that growth hormone release. And so the odds of you getting extra muscle, stronger, faster, feeling clear-headed, focused, being able to focus. So you combine all those things, just know that if you can do those, there's probably a lot that aren't doing it. And so that can, for me, that's what mentally helped me so much. No matter with sleep, whatever, I was trying to do things that I knew other people weren't doing.
Yeah,
get that advantage. So that's great stuff. Let me get to
and
one.
That's what I would always tell people like you at spring training. You're sleeping for the World Series now. not the night before the first World Series game.
Mm-hmm.
So for the young athlete, let's get out ahead of things. You start as a ninth grader, really prioritizing sleep. You're going to be in a very different place when you're a senior or a junior and getting recruited than you would have if you hadn't been. In fact, we did that study in college football players and stratified them by their sleep and then looked to see what their pro careers were like if they were drafted. And it wasn't even close.
Wow.
There
And,
was a
and you did that
true
study
draft
on
value in sleep.
you did that study on MLB players and sleepiness too, right? And
We did.
ones who slept more, it showed what were it, 33% likelier to have a longer career, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it was a guy who did my statistics, who knew nothing about baseball, nothing about sleep. And when I sent him all of our data, his first email back to me was, "Did you make these numbers up?"
It's
I was
crazy,
like,
man.
"No, I didn't." And he said, "Okay, I just felt like I should check because this is staggeringly statistically significant."
That's all
Which
I
to
needed.
me, if you ask anybody, do you think sleep helps you perform better? They'd say, even my kids one time said, "Your research sounds very obvious." So,
Yeah.
but until you look at it and put it in numbers,
Hmm.
does it really matter? Does a
Totally.
morning person pitch better in the morning, earlier games than a night? You would think so, but until you do the research and see it, oh God, the night owl is so much better in the night game than you pull them out to pitch in the morning.
Hmm.
It's like we talk about lefty and righties, well, that makes sense, of course, but yeah, if you've got a night owl on your team, and these are all genetically predisposed,
Yep.
I'm a night owl. My daughter's a night owl. She got the genes from me. I got them from my dad, who was a professional football player. My kids, my son who swims, he's a morning person like my wife. There's no question about it. So, but anyway, yeah, these things matter.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Get
last
out ahead
question
of it early.
before I get into a lot of people wrote questions. So it's kind of about insomnia in a way. So someone wrote they have an unrealistic fear that someone might be breaking into their house. I think they've been used to living with people. All of a sudden, they're kind of living on their own.
Yeah.
So maybe they're by themselves. They can't get that fear out of their mind, which keeps them up maybe a couple of extra hours. So they're really tired, but they can't fall asleep because of that fear. So is there anything you would recommend besides what we talked about already that could maybe get them over that fear and get them to fall asleep a little quicker?
Yeah, I mean, I think the core the comparison I would give is I talk to a lot of young athletes who've just started with the school or just started with the organization, and their corollary is they have a fear of oversleeping. I'm going to oversleep, miss the breakfast, miss the meeting, miss the bus. Coach will get mad at me. He'll bench me. He'll fine me, whatever. And so they're so worried about missing their wake up time that it's like you said, you can't sleep. I always felt that way when I had to catch like a 5 a.m. flight. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm in San Francisco. I catch this crazy early flight. And if I oversleep, I do not want to call my wife and say, I'm not going to see you till tomorrow because I overslept the flight, so I would get so to me is, what can you do to mitigate that situation for the athlete? Let's set an alarm on your phone. Let's get a wake-up call. Let's establish a buddy system. You make sure your buddy's awake for the breakfast the next morning. If you don't see your buddy there, you all look out for each other. There's a little wristband you can wear that will electrocute you. It starts off with a sound, then it vibrates, and if you don't respond to those, then it starts literally shocking you. And it was funny because a baseball player used to use it, and his teammates would get their cup of coffee in the morning and walk by his bedroom and look through the window because it was so entertaining, I guess, to watch this guy get woken up with electrocuting, things shocking his wrist or whatever. But, so let's do it in such that there's so many backups there. There's really nothing to be rationally worried about. The fact that you oversleep your phone, the hotel wake-up call, your buddy would forget to wake you up, and you sleep through a minor execution, in your wrist or whatever. It's not going to happen. So for the person who says, I'm scared of living by myself, sure, you could go through some cognitive things about saying, why that might be rational or irrational. But if you're an older woman, if you're an older guy by yourself, maybe there is a nidus of truth in that. So what could you do? Extra locks on your door, a security system, perhaps getting a dog, might make a difference that, whenever somebody comes around, it kind of growls and would alert you to being a problem. So to me, let's take care of mentally understanding that scared or not, you're going to sleep. So you don't need to worry too much about the sleep part of it. Can we make sure that we're doing things to make you as comfortable as you can be in your house with this fear of being alone and being vulnerable, which is actually quite common in a lot of people. One of my first NBA teams I worked with, I was working with a player from Eastern Europe who was really struggling, according to the team, with road games and road travel. And when I talked to him about it, he said, well, one time I went back to the hotel and a young woman came out of the closet and said, can I get something for you? And he said, for a minute, I thought, oh, this is a hotel staff person. But then I realized, no, she's coming out of my closet. And he's sitting there in his boxers and a t-shirt.
That'll stick with
And nothing happened. I mean, she didn't attack him with a knife. She just hid in the closet all day until this guy came back because she was such a one to meet him. I don't know. So he had this irrational fear of people being in his closets when he was in a hotel room, which is not irrational. It truly happened to him. But I think that's kind of like being irrationally scared of winning the lottery. Yeah, it happens, but it's so rare. So we spent a lot of time working through ways he could kind of overcome that, both practically. Let's check closets when you get there and look for young women, which I do wherever I travel, because that's a big problem. And then you're working on more of the irrational things. What are some things we can do with the mental conditioning coach that allow you to move past this sort of phobia that you might have?
Great stuff, man. Okay, so a lot of people wrote questions. I'll get into the first one. Haley said, do you know why so many of us are having super weird, intense dreams right now? Is it stress, pandemic? And is there any way to change that?
Yeah, great question, Haley. It's probably that for sure. Lots more stress. A lot more. The pandemic is causing a lot of problems. Big election coming up. Make sure you all vote. But the biggest problem is something related to a term we call Zeitgeber, which is a German word for time cue. So in my world, you got to get up, take a kid to school, maybe go to my office, see some patients, have lunch at 1 o'clock, see some more patients, have some phone calls, talk to a couple athletes, come home, run with the dog. Like, there's a very set routine of things. Even my son, get up, swim at 5, go to school, like, the days were pretty set, and from light exposure to meal timing to social interaction, it followed a rhythm. And when COVID happened, that rhythm went out the window. Both of my sons, one swims, one rows. No swimming, no rowing, so you can just sleep until 9 o'clock if you want.
Yeah.
All of your classes are online. There is no gym. There's no restaurants. There's no going and hang out with friends. So suddenly, we're just hanging around our houses all the time. And that was really destructive in terms of our brain losing sight of where we are in time, because the brain doesn't do a very good job of looking at a watch and understanding what that means. Our brain understands time by our actions. So the military, what a great place to be if you're struggling with your sleep, because every day is exactly like the last day. And Sarge doesn't care if you had trouble sleeping last night, because he's going to wake you up with a horn in your ear at 5:30 in the morning, run you around on a field, make you do some burpees, etc. So the biggest reason why we're dreaming is the inconsistency of our schedule. So if it's frustrating to you, pick a wake up time as if you had to go to work at that time, and structure your life where you're always up at that time, even if your life now is allowing you more flexibility to wake up. Like our kids are on Zoom meetings. Sometimes they start at 8, sometimes not until 10. Let's get them all up at 8 every day, even though they've got that 10 o'clock wake up time, if that's something that's concerning to them.
Got it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to run through these. We can just do kind of rapid fire questions.
Lightning round. All right, I'm ready.
We're a little over here, but it's all good, man. It's great stuff. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So Josh said, I found that hydroxyzine, I don't know how to say it, has worked. The next morning I wake up, I feel tired. Is there something I can take in the morning?
Yeah, so hydroxyzine is a medication that's sometimes used for sleep as an off-label because it causes sedation. Rather than let's take another drug to balance out the hydroxyzine, I would say to him, let's maybe try to move away from the hydroxyzine unless you're using it for allergies or something like that.
Okay.
There are medications that can help you feel more awake. I'm not a if it's used intelligently.
Got it. Sophia, what are the name of those classes again for people?
So the blue blocker glasses are Swanwick and Uvex. The light glasses, the ones that create light, are AYO, Pocket Sky, and Retimer, Retimer.
I'm guessing you probably get most of that on Amazon. I'm sure it's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, yeah. And just to be
Cool.
clear, I have no financial relationship with these. I'm not trying to
Yeah,
sell you anything. My
for
book,
sure.
that I get some money for. Outside of that, completely try to keep myself devoid of those kinds of entanglements.
No doubt. Okay, SP said, what are the latest opinions on best practices for improving oxygen levels as it relates to sleep quality? So long way. Is CPAP, APAP machine the way to go?
Oh
Are the
yeah.
remedies more commonplace for sleep quality? Is a lack of oxygen the culprit?
Yeah, so that's exactly. So sleep apnea is so complex. Sleep apnea is when you close your airway off at night, and now your brain has got an interesting decision to make: sleep well and feel great the next day, breathe and not suffocate to death. So fortunately, we choose to breathe and live, even though it crushes and sacrifices our sleep. So the oxygen deprivation is a big part of the long-term health consequences of sleep apnea. But the short term is that you've taken a night of sleep and divided it up into a million pieces. And most people with sleep apnea, my dad's got horrible sleep apnea. He won't treat it because he's like, why do I need to treat sleep apnea? I'm a great sleeper. I can lay down anywhere and go right to sleep. I'm like, yeah, that's why your sleep is so bad, is because you're so sleep deprived, you're so sleepy. So the oxygen level over time can be a real problem. It's probably the mechanism that's destroying our pancreas and creating diabetes in sleep apnea patients. Sleep apnea is a huge risk factor for heart attack and stroke. So CPAP is certainly a way you can treat that, but there are much more elegant ways to do it now. There's oral appliances, laser and ultrasound kinds of surgeries. Weight loss can be helpful. Even the body position that you sleep in can make a difference. Now, I'm distinguishing that from maybe an athlete who sleeps in hyperbaric chambers or use some enriched oxygen. There's some, there's some research that says that that might be able to do something with performance improvement, but that's beyond my wheelhouse.
Okay. Yeah, you brought up a couple of those things, the hyperbaric chamber. I remember I did that after I had surgery, and that was really cool. I think I noticed
Yeah,
a little difference. I don't know how much. So that
yeah, I
makes me think
believe
of
it.
what other products are out there. And I know on Amazon they have like cheap blackout shades you can buy, just put up on your windows, whether it's in a dorm room, wherever. What else is there? Noise machine you talked about. Great sheets that can keep you cool. I have something on my bed that it's similar to the chili pad. It's called the bed jet, where it just shoots air and you can
Yeah.
control the temperature. Because my wife likes it hot in the house for the kids. So if it's 73 in the house, you can make your bed around 60, 66, 67. So I find that helps a lot if you're a hot sleeper.
It does.
Any other
And
products
also,
you'd
yeah,
recommend?
I'm a huge, huge proponent of cool sleeping environments. If you like your bedroom 65, 66, 67, your wife likes it 73, that's the one episode where your wife is wrong, because wives are always right. But it's cool environments are
I
much
need you to
better.
talk to my wife.
Yeah, so I sleep on one of those things too. So this thing called an Uller that
Oh,
circulates
yeah.
water through a pad, so
Mhm.
I can cool my bed down to like 56, and then she can have the bed whatever temperature she wants because she hates a cold bed. But cold bed for recovery, cold bed for better sleep. That's a great. Get the Whoop band out, put it on your wife, have her sleep in the 73-degree temperature for a while, then start cranking the temperature down and look at the score. I almost think temperature might have a bigger influence on our sleep than light. And there's a lot of researchers that think that we're just always in climate controlled environments where we don't really see it. And so
So
some
let
people,
me set the
that's very
record
important.
straight because she's listening. Do young kids need to have it 70 plus degrees? Is
Oh
that like
God,
a
no, 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 no.
proven?
Let me tell you
They
something.
don't,
There's
right?
something strange about children. If you got kids, you buy them the $100, $200 North Face jacket. They come home from school and it's like 22 degrees outside. Like, where's your jacket? Like, oh, I took it off during gym class outside. What did you get? Oh, I forgot. I left it on the playground. Well, it's gone. You're never going to get it back. And you're thinking to yourself, it was 26 degrees outside today, and they didn't think they needed a jacket. And they're not hurting themselves. They're literally just warm little suckers. So kids are really interesting. And I'll tell you, I have a chili pad on my bed and eventually got one because my son is so into performance swimmer. He's like, I want a chili pad. So I got two of them because you got to buy one for each of them. And I swear to God, my kids, when they slept, when they would wake up in the morning, The pillow was gone. It's like in the bathroom. How'd the pillow get in the bathroom? The bottom sheet completely ripped off the bed, mattress exposed, and somehow makes it down into the basement. Like it's just destroyed. And you look at them like, what happened? Like every night we don't make the bed, we remake the entire bed because they've just torn it apart. Got the chili pad, put it on the bed the very first night, woke them up in the morning. They literally looked like Ripley in Alien, in those little space pods. Like they hadn't moved all night. The bed was perfect. They got out of it like this. The bed was made. So I started doing experiments. Some nights I would go in and check on them at midnight, and I would just, for the hell of it, turn the chili pad off because I couldn't believe it, and invariably torn the bed up. So I think kids sleep hot. I think they're just hot natured because their metabolism's through the roof. They're growing, growth hormone everywhere. So the idea that they're better off in a 73 environment, try it out, man. Knock it down to 65. Buy the chili pad. See what happens. It's staggering to me how much it makes a difference in terms of how they sleep, but also in adults too. I don't think I've ever had an adult buy one and say, you know what, Chris, that was really wasted money. In fact, the company is really good about returns. Buy one and wear it for a while or use it for a while. My wife will not let me get in the bed without turning it on. I mean, I like it on, but she's like, hey, turn that chili pad on, because when you don't, you're just moving around and talking about stuff. When you wear it, when you use it, out cold, man. I love it. Oh, it feels so good.
Dude, that's awesome stuff. I cannot wait to see her reaction when I see her after this. So we're talking about kids real quick. You know, I think it happens with a lot of parents out there, but we got in a bad routine where they fall asleep on the couch. And then when we go to bed, we take them and we put them in bed. So I don't know if that is what makes my daughter wake up in the middle of the night and come sleep in our room. I'm sure a lot of other people out there deal with that. So our doctor said, our pediatric doctor said, just put a little twin bed on the floor so she's not sleeping in your bed. Anything else you'd recommend for something like that where a kid wakes up and just wants to come in your room?
You can put the twin bed in your pediatrician's bedroom, see what she has to say about that. So now, listen, this is a common thing that parents go through, and it's tough. You know, our kids, everybody's like, our kids learn to walk really young, which is just the worst. Everybody's, oh my God, they're so great. They can walk early. No, they can walk, but they've got zero sense about them. So there's nothing you can do to stop them from coming into your bedroom and waking you up. Dad, I can't sleep. Why'd you wake me up? You think I can wave a magic wand over your head to make you sleep? So what we would always do is, the key to that is, you've got to make your bedroom less appealing than where they're coming from. So you get your little stuffed animals, you make their bed, and you make a little fort on top of their bed. You can buy these little things and make the bed a tent. It's like a little magical kingdom. When our kids came into our bedroom, I was waiting for them with a headlamp. And my youngest one was the only one who ever really did it with any frequency. So when he would come in, I'd be like, oh, I'm so glad you're here, because I got to go down to the garage and clean it out a little bit. And he did not like spiders a whole lot, although he would never admit it. So I'd give him a headlight. I'd put one on myself. We go down to the garage and we get a dustpan and we just sweep a few little spiders onto the dustpan and throw them outside. And, live, be free, but don't do it in our house. And they'll be like, oh, I'm so glad you were awake to help me with this, because I do this every night by myself and it gets kind of boring. So it was never a punishment. And we had fun doing it. This is fun, right? Dad, bond time, clean out some spiders in the garage. So after a while, he started waking up, and I guarantee you, if there was a camera in his bedroom, he'd wake up and be like, oh, I don't know if I want to go in there and get that headlamp put on my head and go clean up spiders. I think maybe I'll just pee and go back to sleep and not wake them up, because I'd rather not do that. So I've had patients tell me that they'll get up and clean a toilet or something, like, oh, it's 3:00. This is my toilet cleaning time. I'm so glad you could be here to help me with this, fun task or whatever. So to me, it's not about punishment. It's not about stress. Like, oh, I'm so angry you woke me up. Oh, why do you do this? And because kids thrive on that. It's like makes their little motor run. They love to get you push your buttons. But if it's like, Dad seems to like it when I wake him up and we go clean spiders or clean toilets, that's a quick way to get them to kind of curb that habit. And if they're struggling and really seem to be waking up a lot more than they should, talk to a sleep specialist. Maybe they need a sleep study. Could they have sleep apnea? Maybe. My older son, he's 16, just had his tonsils out a few weeks ago, and man, that guy snored like crazy, and now is completely silent, doesn't get up as much at night, doesn't talk in his sleep as much. So it's made a big difference in his sleep. So school performance, bedwetting, stunted growth, attention deficit or attention problems, all interesting signs that maybe a sleep problem's lurking there. They're some of the most misdiagnosed problems out there.
Wow, that's good stuff. So that I was going to ask about ADD in young kids and really in
Yeah.
anybody. If someone's taking Ritalin or Adderall every day, or you go a day not taking it, is there anything that you would recommend so that they could fall asleep quicker, so their brain to slow their brain down, or just kind of the things that we've gone over?
Yeah, Ritalin is tough. There's some, some medications like that. And ADHD is a real thing. I mean, I'm just saying that a lot of people who think they have it, they have a sleep problem. The sleep problem makes them irritable, poor concentration, and you're giving them a stimulant. It's not really treating the ADHD, it's actually waking them up. So everybody's patting themselves on the back. Oh, we did it. We figured out the problem. No, you didn't. You're just covering it up with the stimulant. So the stimulants, the ones we typically use, Adderall, Ritalin, Concerta, Focalin, the timing of those drugs are very important because you want to time it so it helps you stay awake during your Zoom classes and your chemistry lab and whatnot, but that it's wearing off at the right time when you go to bed. So to me, if you're feeling like your child or your own, adults can have it too, medication is impairing your ability to sleep, it might be worth looking at different formulations of the drug or perhaps completely different drugs in general, as well as timing of them to get the right benefit at the right time. And that's really important.
Okay. I mean, I have more questions, but I feel like we could go on and on. I said it was going to be an hour, so we might just have to do another one of these, man. Because sleep, there's just so many questions to ask, so much knowledge to have, and one of those things, if you don't know, you don't know, and once you find out, that you
And isn't
just
that the problem? Like I don't think people are born feeling like they understand, shoulder architecture. Like the guys down the road from me is a shoulder surgeon, and I don't think people think like, I think I've got a anterior ligament, da, 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 like, but sleep is something we all have this kind of feeling we understand. There's a lot of lore about it. Grandma told me that all my sleep after midnight's worthless, or something like that. So it is interesting to kind of parcel out the things we've learned over time because we don't have a real elevated dialogue about sleep. That's the first thing I always tell a team when I show up is that forget about me, just talk about sleep. If you're a strength and conditioning coach and you're spotting an athlete, doing some exercise, have you been sleeping lately? That's a powerful question to open that up. Like you ask about the hamstring. Is your hamstring bothering you? Oh, it's not. Well, good. How's your sleep? Because a lot of people think that talking about sleep is sort of exposing a weakness. If I'm not a good sleeper, I'm a weak person. Oh, I'm the last person to leave and the first person to get there. Therefore, I'm great. I'm a good person. I got a cot in my office. I love coaches have cots in their office. Dear God, like what are you, Newt Rockney? Come on now, like you're setting the example. You're the flagship here. Like Ariana Huffington naps in front of her employees just to show that she values it. So when you establish a resting room in your facility, whether you ever use it or not, it's a symbol that, hey, we think so and so much about sleep that we've got a little place here that you could stretch out and take a little nap before the game or get away from your dorm if you need to. So use it or not, but we think it's important. So we're trying to help you out there. Those are the symbolism is so important. So yeah, I mean, to me, it's just talk about sleep. And if you have questions, just ask somebody, but get that dialogue going in the locker room or amongst your high school team or your college team or your pro team, where we're talking about nutrition and sleep and mental conditioning. It's just part of our culture here. It's not weird. It's not weak if you say, man, I haven't been sleeping that well. My wife and I are kind of having some trouble and it's really affecting my sleep. Then tell somebody about it. Let's help with the marriage issue. Let's help with the sleep problem too. Kid can't sleep. Man, the number of people that call me up and say, man, I'm fine. I met you at spring training. I'm good. But my girlfriend is a disaster in bed and it's affecting my sleep. Then we need to figure that out. So don't suffer. Sleep's easy. It really is. It's not terribly complicated.
Yeah, you saying how you eat good, you eat really healthy, you train really hard, you work on your mind a lot. If you're not getting that sleep, then none of that stuff really matters. So now it's out there. This will hopefully help people think about it more. There's so many studies out there. People are talking about it more. So that's the best thing. That wasn't around when I was in high school and college, but now people have the information. And if they want it to, and if they really want to be great, they have this information to get them there.
Yep.
Great
And
stuff,
that's what's
man.
fun. And that's what's fun about Brandon, because I'll tell you this while I've still got a few people on here, is that, I will meet with every one of the Cleveland Indians from the top all the way down to like double A over a period of 4 absolutely exhausting days where they stick me in a room with no windows and file one player in after the other. But I just remember Brandon because he didn't treat it like, oh, God, I got to spend 10 minutes with the sleep guy. Jesus. It was like he had to shoo him out the door because he had questions about it. Like, it mattered to him, like his performance, his health, his longevity mattered. So to him, it was like, oh, great, I've got 10 minutes with this guy. I'll get all my questions answered. And I think we're still trying to answer him. He has so many, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what's fun about the situation. And that's how everybody should be. Like, get good information, get good counsel, and put it into action. It always works.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, if there's a tool out there that can help me make the most of my potential, and something like this that is free and easy to do, why would I not do it? So that's why I was asking you all the questions when
Absolutely.
I would meet with you. That's why I always love talking to you. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Chris.
Hey, Brandon, it's my pleasure. It
I know we
absolutely
didn't
is.
we didn't get too much into your book, The Sleep Solution, but that's out. The Rested Child, you said, I think early next year it should be
Yeah,
out.
the title's in flux, so
Okay.
debating that title. I wanted Tired AF, but my publisher said no way.
I like that. Hey, that'll sell, man. Let's do
I
that.
thought so too, right? Yeah, that's got a beach house written all over it, right?
Yeah. All right. In your
Oh
book, I
yeah.
just want to do a selfless plug on or shameless plug on my book. My book, The Fully Equipped Playbook, just came out it was an ebook. It just came out on Amazon, a paperback. So you guys want any more information, you can go there, grab that. And really, I started Fully Equipped Athlete because the reason that we're talking to make the most of your potential. Sleep is a reason, mindset, healthy nutrition, 10 tools that really breathing, which is huge, that really help to get the most out of you, be great on and off the field. So that's why I started Fully Equipped Athlete. So check it out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope a lot of you got a lot out of it, and can apply it and help you get better and be the best version of yourself. That's what we should all do, right? So thank you, Chris, and
Thank
thank
you
you
so
everybody
much,
for
Brandon.
joining us. All right.
Absolutely.
Bye. Thank you.